everybody. Those were just some of the issues that we have, and that's why we think it's also planning, but it's also implementation. We've got to be there when we implement.
When I just ask, how would you all engage the lower levels of government in your county? Because of course now you got a bunch of mayors as well, right? That you're going to engage.
They're right over here in this room. I mean, this is the nerve center. This is where everything happens.
Yeah.
Everybody reflects to one area, and it works with hurricanes. We understand disasters. We understand how to work it, how to coordinate. This building here is done to do that. We flew a helicopter right into that out there, the parking lot. We could get up. We could fly our own jurisdiction. The problem is we couldn't communicate to anybody. We could communicate to ourselves, but with the state and with what they do, they communicate back and forth with us. It becomes fairly fluid in a hurricane. I'm just saying the ability to do this is there. It's not like we have to reinvent something. We have a very good relationship when it comes to hurricanes. Our question is why this wasn't like a hurricane. And I know OPA, and I've been to Congress and talked about OPA, and it has some really good points. I don't think it ever anticipated a spill of this magnitude, and that's the reason we're sitting here. We very well. I mean, I hope to God we never have another blowout at the base of the ocean, but we don't know if we could tomorrow. I mean, that's just the way it is.
That said, I mean, we have a major ship collision and oil into one of your bays here. I mean, we would still probably, I guess, expect that the county would be somehow engaged in this command. Now, the federal government kind of asks the state to bring in our, but it's a collaborative process with the responsible parties, the state and the federal government. And to the degree it didn't happen, and part of it was the massive size of it, but you're right, it did, and it needs.
Just like to interject, I mean, the system could work. When it first happened and Mobile stood up, I was there the first 2 weeks until they told us we couldn't come anymore. We had a seat at the table. It wasn't an active one. We knew it was going on, so we didn't have filtered information coming down. We were able to directly interact with our state folks to help get things implemented. We get that. And then as it grew and then it moved from sector to the where it moved to the
PCIT in New Orleans.
Well, or just even to the
one of the sectors down
moved down, and it moved down, right. And basically, when it made that move, we were told not to come anymore.
I'm surprised. I'd be very interested.
They're right. No, but it's. I mean, your process is even set up for it to work with where we were asking commissions and such. But it's the problem that happened, from my perspective, on local government is. When we were asking for something, we had gotten buried so far down, I think it was funneling through too many channels that by the time it got to a decision maker, it was no longer the same request. And it was 3 days because everything of course requires a lot of review. And then just our other kind of local frustration. I'm the manager of beaches in Full Island. They were scrambling to find out about the DDT beach house. I'm the coordinator for it.
Oh, well, so you get all the expertise.
I have the expertise. They didn't ask the local U.S. Fish and Wildlife Office any input on it. They were drawing in people from all over. So it's by local resources. I don't just mean our local government,
right?
But we have field offices. I think they're underutilized. At DEP, they were probably underutilized locally on where the resources are. They had regional folks relying on GIS resources, and then we use national wetland inventory when it's right maybe half the time.
Oh.
So there's ways that OPA can work, and it's if it hadn't blown up near as large as it could, it may have functioned very well. It's just as the scale continues to increase.
Well, that's a great lesson. But when my pollution guy comes out and sees a spill in your bay, and then you don't feel engaged in that, because this is going to deal with that more than it's going to deal with this one. By golly, we're not even doing it on the simple ones here.
Well, it's actually a little bit more difficult for me than that. Was that we had a suspect vessel,
Oh yeah.
and there wasn't an investigation. There wasn't a a knock on the door. There wasn't okay, who owns this vessel? Who's responsible for this vessel? Someone knock on the door, take a sample of the water in the harbor, take a sample of whatever's in his filters, and match it up. I mean,
That's not.
you got
That
to
part-
follow up, and
I
that's
wanna know.
that actually bothers me more.
And matter of fact, I want you to call Eric King directly on his cell phone. That's not happening. He can call me directly, too, but I'm not smart enough. Eric is. He'll make it happen. Right, Eric? I mean, that's, and we get, absolute lesson. No reason why you couldn't, all the counties, I mean, it's 15, but it is only 15, really, to have a county group. Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Brown from
Santa Rosa.
Yes. I'll echo a few things, being so far along here now. First of all, like the Commissioner said, we think the local level, and I'll back up Robert on his comment, you know, when it's out there in the Gulf, great, open, go for it. But once it starts impacting locally, I mean, we are emergency managers. That means we manage emergencies. Now, I don't know anything about boom until this happened. And I learned lots of stuff about boom. And I can tell you from Googling, we had some poor boom strategies. And I'm not an expert. But we can help manage that. And when it got to the local level, I'll go to the booths for a second. It's 3 words, command and control. There was no command and control over the booths. We found that. I was an active participant in the branch when they finally let us in there. And, you know, that's one of my specialties is I'm in the fire service. I'm all about incident command. I can manage resources. And I finally had to do a test one day to prove to Mobile that we could manage resources. We got a resource in 4 minutes to a supposedly oil spill at Fort Pickens. 42 minutes later, Mobile got a resource there. So that tells you that we can help you manage, and we have to get the locals involved. And kind of commenting on her, I can tell you one thing. Our county learned it after Iowa. If you don't keep the public informed, you're not going anywhere. You're going to get a bad taste in your mouth. You may not tell them what they want to hear, but you tell them the truth, and you let it wash out. And there was, you know, we've seen booms going up in Mississippi. We've seen booms going up in Louisiana. That's a total different oil product over there. And here we are, we're trying to boom oyster pots. Well, what's a boom going to do for an oyster pot? You know, it's got water all the way around it. The oil we got is heavier than what they had in Louisiana. So there was a lot of opportunity to learn, but I can tell you that, you know, once you get to that local level, and hydrology is important, there is not a water supply in Santa Rosa County, other than the rivers coming down, that are not affected by Scamby County. They tried to lump Okaloosa with us. There's not any water that feeds from the Gulf of Mexico into Santa Rosa County from Okaloosa. So we were adding they were trying to add a third party into our branch that had no effect. All our water for Santa Rosa County comes through Pensacola Pass. So we were tied at the hips with a Scamby. We wanted the pass protected. And then you got all these things going on, and I'm not going to say because I'm not an expert in it, but I think there were some things tried that caused some other things to be tried, which none of them were in the ACT. So I agree with you on the guidance, and we need to work off of the ACT. I'm not saying there's not new ideas that come out, but, you know, don't just, like you were talking about building a berm 5 miles out. I mean, that's ludicrous, and I'm not an environmental specialist, and I know that that's not a good idea. But you are going to get into politics, and if you don't get the local government on your side, the citizens are pushing us. We have to respond to the citizens. So we're trying to help you help them, and we can do that by managing. We manage local emergencies all the time. I'm not saying I want to go up and manage what's going on in the ocean. That's y'all's ball game. I'm not an ocean dweller. I feel like I can fish, but that's about it. But once you get to the local level where it's impacting us, we can help you manage resources. Obviously, there's going to be political push. We want our citizens involved. We don't want somebody from Atlanta coming in here making it when we got unemployed people in ours. That's always going to be a political push. And I don't know you're going to address that in the plan, but understanding that would be advantageous to the responsible party. Obviously, BP would get better results if they look to employ locally, because it's going to take the back off our commissioners who are getting a political push. So if everybody could understand all the angles, and I understand Coach Clark, but I can tell you, if anybody says that Mobile Incident Command was successful, I will argue with them all day long. It was not. I went over there the first day, a crowded room. We left that the first day. We could tell that our voice was not going to get there. So we went back to our state side. And then we went back for 2 weeks. And then we found out we wasted that 2 weeks. So then we kind of pushed the branch idea, and it took us and Escambia, some hard work at the branch to finally get across where they were even willing to give us any resources. And I understand incident management. I understand if you need a skimmer over in Alabama, you pull it. But when it's in this branch, let us manage it for you. There were, like Robert said, there were booths going past oil product. When we finally got it established, we had the contact with the booths. We took the complaint, and we sent them directly to it, and it worked well. But there was so much friction getting it going. I mean, I think the branch eventually was fairly successful. I wouldn't say completely, but fairly successful at managing the local side of it. But going back at the branch level, there was a lot of things. There were contractors wanting to make money. There were skimmers sitting in boxes that were not being accounted for. So, I mean, that incident command helps you manage these. That's what it's about. It doesn't matter if it's a structure fire in Escambia County, a downtown Milton fire in Santa Rosa County, or a huge oil spill. If you manage it, command and control it, ICS will work. And it got diluted. I won't say that there were some BP reps that were really good and really understood our role and kept us in the loop, and that worked really well. Then there were some other ones that were their branch directors that we struggled with getting information and struggled with getting help we needed. We're just like y'all. We don't want the impact here. We want to be able to help y'all mitigate that impact. And we don't have a big environmental like they do, but we relied on them. I mean, we were getting our knowledge came from them. We have a small environmental group. They were participating in it. So, I mean, there is a lot of resources locally, but like I said, we're emergency managers. We can help you manage this at the local level.
I want to say two issues, follow up on that. The issue of the county being so well related, we get information, we immediately forward it to them, and it can go on down the chain. We can find ways. The other issue, getting to the public, we kept trying to tell everybody that if you need somebody to get to the public, we're the grassroots government. We're right there with the public. We can get to them as fast as anybody about what's going on and what needs to happen in our specific local jurisdiction. Those are things we're good at. We don't have all the boats, and we don't have all the other resources to go attack it somewhere else. That's not what we do. But the things we're good at, you know, let's build the same team and give us assignment to go do this.
That's great. And remember, the construct of Open 90 is that the responsible party sets up the response, organizes the response, decides how he's going to organize this response, and the state and federal on-scene coordinators oversee, is he cleaning it up? And so to the degree that the responsible party chooses to engage with counties or cities or not, is often a, okay, hey guys, you aren't doing